What did you think when the RAF started bombing Germany?
Oh, you're reaping what you sowed. And having seen the results of that after the invasion, well, went into Germany and into the cities, I realised what a lethal thing that the RAF did. I mean, God knows they paid for it in casualties, and I don't think we can underestimate what they did, both as fighters here, the fighter planes, and the Battle of Britain, and the Bomber Command, because I don't think people realised how expensive in men the Bomber Command was, because if you had a plane shot down, you didn't lose one man, you lost 4 or 5, navigators, bomb aimers, co-pilots, and those news bulletins, it always ended with, 4 of our aircraft are missing. And I knew after the war, at work, I met some of the chaps who were in Bomber Command, and it must have been very difficult if you went one night and you came back and some of your mates didn't, and you knew you would have to go again the next night and the next night and the next night. And it's a mental strain as much as anything, I think. And I always admire them for what they did, because I know it's an ordinary foot soldier. Well, I was Royal Artillery, so I had big guns, but I knew that at least we got some rest time. You didn't know what was coming, but they knew what was coming, and they had to do it every night. I didn't really realise until I went into Germany and saw what they'd done. I mean, some of the cities were like a desert, and they had to bulldoze roads out of the rubble, well, it was incredible. It was you'd look out into a mound of bricks and that smashed, and also in Hamburg particularly, they got a right hammering, and there's a lake in Hamburg called the Ulster. No doubt you know. And as Hamburg was one of the cities that we didn't so much high explosive, we firebombed. And literally people were flying and throwing themselves into the water, into the Ulster, rather than being burnt. I know both sides did nasty things, but I've always thought about that. And of course, going into Hamburg afterwards, I mean, I don't know whether people lived in holes in the ground or what, but there were a lot of the town was just obliterated.
Did any German soldiers ever surrender to your unit?
Yes, some did, especially as it got underway a bit and we got into Germany itself. You'd see perhaps there'll be a hill nearby, and I remember one lot coming down. They were about 6 of them, and they were walking slowly down the hill, and they were waving a white flag, and they had no visible weapons with them, because there were tricks where they get you into thinking they were going to surrender, and suddenly you get a deluge of bullets at you from another quarter or something like that. But this particular lot I remember, and of course, right at the end, they were, when I was coming on my first leave, and that was from Germany. We landed in June, and it was May the next year I got my first leave home. And as I was taken to the embarkation camp on the Belgian coast, I passed columns and columns of German soldiers in threes, marching smartly as they ever did, and they'd all surrendered. And each side, every now and again, there'd be a grinning British soldier in his tin hat, you know, and but then I knew that European war was over, but as I still had Far East 1 in my paybook, I wasn't counting any chickens. I was halfway between Zeebrugge and Harwich on the boat going on leave, and that was my first leave, and halfway over it came over the loudspeakers, and it was I didn't hear the announcement strictly on the radio, but the loudspeaker with the officers, one of our officers said, "Gentlemen," well that woke us up for a start. "You may be interested to know that Germany has just surrendered. We were going on leave. We wouldn't get killed if we went back. It wasn't half a bonus."
When you were first advancing into Germany, what was the initial reaction of the German civilians to you?
Kept out of the way, I think. Well, they didn't welcome us, obviously, but I think they tried to avoid trouble. They didn't know us. They didn't know whether we kill people just for the fun of it, like some of their men used to do. I remember at one place we stopped, and we weren't averse to if they were growing fruit or anything, we'd stop and say we wanted some apples or whatever it was. And one little man, he was so anxious he had a small apple tree. He cut the bloody tree down and gave us a tree. I always remember that. And it was, well, they didn't welcome us, obviously, but they didn't make enemies of us. Because, well, I know we were the enemy, but then you used to hear them, "That fool Hitler," and I thought, yeah, but you bloody voted for him, didn't you? Yeah, you know, everybody can be wise after the event, can't they? Yeah, but some of his associates were worse than him, I think. Goebbels and
Himmler.
And the butcher of Bockenwald. Have you heard about him? It was the civilian camps where they kept, not British, but French or Belgian, whatever, civilians who were like mayors and important people, and if they tried to escape, then is that all right?
Yeah, it's fine.
They could be very, very brutal. And I remember the trial because our battery initiated as guards for one of the war crimes trials, and it was for a camp where British POWs had been as well. And we'd seen a couple of those, and we'd seen what they left behind. They left little things that they'd made, and you turn this little wheel, and if you had a little flame, it blew that flame, and it made it hotter, and they could build they could heat a mug with it or something. All the little engineering men made these out of nothing, you know. And we don't realise what a hard time they had. And of course, at the end, they had what they called the death marches from where the advancing troops were coming. They'd march the prisoners the other way, and of course, and then eventually they were being sandwiched because the Russians were coming from one side and we were coming for the other. But well, it was all a long time ago now. And
when did you first learn that the Holocaust was happening?
Oh, I can't quite remember. I think it wasn't until well into the end of the war or the early peacetime. I wasn't. To be honest, I'm not sure.
That's okay.
There wasn't a lot about it in the press at the time. Whether they knew and didn't say anything, I don't know, because government restrictions were rather stricter than they are now. It was an offence to publish anything the government said you shouldn't. I know it's a lack of freedom, but we were fighting for the freedom anyway, and you've got to give up some things to get. Well, that was my view anyway. So, I mean, I didn't volunteer to join the army, but I was in the Home Guard already, so I knew all the drills and things. It wasn't a great thing when they, as I say, started scraping the barrel and getting. Well, I mean, I was 21 then, and I got away with it.
Can you please explain how you came to be looking round Belsen?
Well, it was in our territory. But I didn't look around it, don't get me wrong. I saw the people who come out of it, and I saw the headings they had, the sauce to put over the Arbeit macht frei. Work makes freedom. They bloody chicken, they worked them to death in there, and they never. And I saw some of the chaps and women, but mostly men, and they were like walking skeletons. They didn't feed them. And I don't know, it was tales of cannibalism, but whether it was true or not, I don't know. But nobody can tell when things are to reach that level, and it was a horror level, wasn't it? I know what they did, that our army did, was good, I thought. They got the councillors from all the different towns and villages and made them march through the camp and see what their soldiers had, well, it's the SS mainly, I think, had done, you know. And some of the women were sick and fainted. And I thought, well, it's your lot started it, mate. But we didn't know about real food shortage like the Germans did. I mean, the inevitable, the currency everywhere was cigarettes. Money or German money bought nothing because it was valueless, the mark. So you could buy cameras for cigarettes and all sorts of things, and bound to board perhaps facts that the public didn't want to know about. You get prostitutes for cigarettes as well, you know, because that was the currency of the time. Not that I ever availed myself. I had enough bring back without bringing back something I didn't want. But, no. But strangely enough, we got on all right with the German people. I suppose there is a racial bond between us, more than them and the French, actually. I felt sorry really for their families, because they shot all their families and children when Hitler packed in. Oh, because he shot himself and Eva Braun and everybody. Yeah. But the poor innocents got it as well, really. And of course, when the Russian soldiers came into the German villages, shouting "Frau, Frau, Frau," you knew what they were after, and they got it forcibly or otherwise. And when we were on the banks of the River Elbe on our side, and the Russian army was on the other side, and they used to spy on us through binoculars. Wouldn't think we were allies, think we're bloody enemies. And the Royal Army Service Corps used to have a motorboat, and they used to go up and down the River Elbe, and the Russians used to look out, and we used to wave to them, but they never waved back. I suppose they get the Royal Order of the Boot or something, if they did. But and Russian civilians, because there was a lot of forced labour there in Germany, and we set them free, and they were all trying to go back to their homes, and of course they blocked the roads and all the traffic, but they could only walk, nobody would bother, and there were camps where they kept overnight, and I remember standing in a doorway, and it was in Germany, and there was a German woman with her son standing by us, and she spoke English. She was a well-educated woman, and all these Russian people were walking by trying to go home, and I'm trying to get home, and all these Russian people are stopping me going, and our lieutenant was standing by. He said, "Madam, these people have been waiting 4 years to go home. You wait a bit longer." And I thought, well, that's taking you down, Peg. Yeah. Strange enough, we got on all right in Germany. Yeah. With they were a bit cagey, the people. We didn't. I heard no one did any atrocities or anything. And I remember one lady, German lady, who spoke English very well. And she was talking to one of our officers. She said, "We don't mind you British gentlemen, but we don't want these Russian barbarians. They hated it." Not without reason, because rape and pillage was part of their... I mean, I don't suppose anyone much would admit it, but especially in Berlin, they ran riot in there. The German villagers liked having us in the village because they knew that the Russians wouldn't come over at night and take the women away, which they used to do. So we always had quite a warm welcome. And come Christmas, one particular village, we ran a Christmas party for all the children, and the mums and dads taught their children little rhymes about the Englander come and the sort of complimentary things, And of course the kids had nothing, and so we didn't have very much, but we used to find a few things for them, and also the people, they had nothing, so I think we could have scraped a bit out of our rations for them. And also they used to look to us because there was no doctor in the village or nearby, and there was one a few villages away, and if they were in trouble, they used to come to us, and we had telephone conversation, and I used to have to speak to the German authorities a few villages down who's got a doctor with my limited German to have someone to come up to look after this person. So they had nowhere else to go, so they came to us for help. And this was all right, though. They're only human beings. I don't sort of tar everybody with the same brush. I mean, they made the mistake of electing Hitler in the first place, but Well, he was never a very nice character anyway, was he? And they've always been a bit nationalist. I suppose we have in the past, but I hope we've grown out of it. Me and my mates, we had New Year's Day off, and he was a dispatch rider, so he had a motorbike. So we got permission, and we were in Germany, but we scuttled off back to Nijmegen, got a short leave, and they didn't know we were coming. We just knocked on the door, and there was no one there. And I said to my mate, I know where they are. They're Roman Catholics. They're in church. And so we knew how to get in. We were almost one of the family, and we laid out on the lounge floor on the carpet and went to sleep. And this was on the Sunday morning. Anyway, I heard the door opening, and feet came to the door, our door, and there was silence for a bit, and then the door closed again, and it was quiet. And eventually, someone came in, and I was awake, and it was the family, and all they had to go by when they'd been to church for New Year's, they were devout Catholics, I think. And I think our faces were covered, I'm not quite sure, or we're probably under a chair or something. But I said, how did you know we were? I always remember what they said. We saw British Army boots. That was enough. And that was how we got on with the Dutch. They were wonderful people.
I've literally asked everything I wanted to ask.
Yes.
Is there anything that was quite important to you during the war that you've not mentioned that you want to say now?
Well, number one, always letters from home. And whether it was mums and dads, or in my case, brothers and sisters, because I had two brothers in World War One, so there was an age difference between us. Len was in the trenches, and Alf missed the worst of it, but like me, he finished up in Cologne, and so did I at the very end. But Cologne was a good finish, because I wasn't in the army there. I was in the army, but I got posted for my clerical knowledge to the Control Commission, and they dealt with all the coal mines that were around there, and the powers that be decided where all the German coal should go. I think some of it came to us, reparations, and but I worked in the office there with bilingual Germans. I mean, I didn't ask to. I didn't want to go. I got taken out from my mates that I'd been through with thick and thin for 4 odd years, posted on my own to people I didn't know. Some were, like myself, army clerks who had been sorted out, Operation Quill they called it, and some were civilian Control Commission people, including ladies, and we had German girls working for us as well. And that was the last 6 months, and we took over. Well, 2 or 3 of us. All of us are posted there. Took over civilian flats. Where we just threw them out. Where they went, I don't know. But we had their furniture went. We slept on the floor, but at least it was dry, and you had somewhere to sleep. And somewhere, I couldn't call it home necessarily, but it wasn't a barracks. And of course, working in an office as we did there, we used to look out over the River Rhine, and there was the great Hohenzollern Bridge, and it was down because Germans had blown it in the middle, and it was in the water like that, And there's a fabulous view on the other side of the Rhine. They had a great pre-war exhibition centre, a bit like Crystal Palace, if you like, with a big tower, and that was just right opposite on the other bank, and you could go across there. There was a bit of a bridge left. Further down there was a bit better bridge, and also a bit nearer was another bridge, and it was built of wood. And our Royal Engineers built that while we were there, and they had pile drivers, but even the big pillars were wood, and they sharpened them, and boom, boom, and all day you'd hear this boom, 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 and in the end vehicles were going over it, and the Germans used to sneer for the Holzenbrücke. They had the wooden bridge, but we built it, and it took traffic, and we built it quickly, and that was what was needed at the time. And I always respected the REs for that, because it's not an easy job. The Rhine's a big river, and of course, while we were in Cologne, we could hire a little motor launch or something like that, or there were quite little river boats with cabins, would take 15 or 20 passengers, and we hired one, well, a bit bigger than that, and we went down the river, and we were working in the office. It was an office. One or two German men, half a dozen, if not more, British soldiers, all clerical in Civvy Street, but none of us were clerks in the army, but we'd all got drifted in because they wanted clerical workers. And the others were German young ladies, also bilingual. And we were all one big happy family. And we went down the river, and there were drinks on board, and lunch was laid on. We paid for it all, of course, but of course the Germans didn't have much food themselves, and they were getting a free lunch and wine, or no, not wine. Well, I think we had beer, and we landed further down the river at a little town called Andernach, and that has a reputation round that part of Germany. If you're going a bit funny in the head, we'll have to send you to Andernach, because apparently there's a home there for people with mental troubles. Anyway, we landed there, and the French Air Force had a little base there, and they came and saw us, invited us to their canteen, the girls as well. I mean, they were German girls, let's face it. And, well, talk about getting Brahms and Liszt. I mean, they were pouring the wine down us, and I felt terrible. Head kind of. I'm used to drinking wine, and as soon as you emptied your glass, they fill it. I mean, I know you didn't have to drink it, but I know I had my head out of the porthole halfway back, trying to get some air. And of course, young lady who I took, because she was German, and she didn't drink a lot of beer or wine, but she was used to it, and she was all right, and she had to look after me. Oh, of course, they slept in their own homes, and we took over civilian homes and housing. They were ours until we used to. It was like you left the house in the morning and you went like to work, and that was on the banks of the Rhine in this big building, and it was North German coal control. It controlled where all the coal that was mined on the Ruhr went, because the Allied forces and the Allied Control Commission decided who was going to have it, whether the Germans could have it or not. But I mean, they didn't like that very much, but as we used to say, you shouldn't join if you can't take a joke. That was the well-known army saying when something went wrong. Yeah, we had the army ran in Dortmund one day. They ran, the Aldershot tattoo. they did one there down there in Dortmund, in the football ground, the big arena. We used to go to German football matches up until the war was over, and the Germans never seen anything like it, with the horses and jumping and everything that went on. And there was one young girl in our lot, in the German-speaking crew. She was mad on horses. We used to call her Hanny the horse, because her name was Hannah Laura, and known as Hanny. And we managed to get tickets for civilians, and that included getting on a train at Cologne and going to Dortmund. No one paid anything. And she was over the moon with all this, and it was done at night, and it was done by searchlights, providing, and it was very good actually, and the army really excelled themselves in that. Yeah. Of course, there was the great song we all sung. Our parents and people didn't like us singing it, Lily Marlene. Well, everybody, all the soldiers sung it, no matter what. It was a good bloody tune, and it wasn't particularly Germanic. Well, outside the barrack, in that Caserna vor der großen Tor unter den Laterne, and I knew it in German once, and we all used to sing it, and I think even the French sung it as well. And once we were, I was on short leave and with friends that we'd made in Holland during the landings there, and the airborne dropped to there, and we made friends with people in Nijmegen, and they looked after us as though we were their sons. They were lovely, and we used to go back and visit from time to time if we could. And the youngster there, boys of 8 or 9 are he knew, little Dutch boy, he knew all sorts of words that the other boys used to sing, and one of them was the words to Lily Marlene. There were so many different of them. We had English ones. Your man is dead, they tell me so. They buried him in Russian snow. You could fit so many words to it. And also the Germans themselves. And if you heard the German army singing it, it was something else. It really, give them their due, they can do that sort of thing. They know how to sing, I think. Which reminds me of, we used to have Ensa parties around, and the entertainment was a bit dodgy sometimes. They did the best they could. But I always remember, I forget exactly, it was in Germany somewhere. We had an Ensa party come round, and there was about 3 men and a girl, and they were quite good. They did all sorts of things, little sketches, and the girl could sing, and there was one of them played the piano, and they had our sense of humour as well. And the girl sung a little song, and it was called "You'll Get Used to It, You'll Get Used to It." And one of the lines I remember was, "When you go on leave to Brussels, you'll get used to it." Thinking of the ladies of the night who used to perform in Brussels.
Yes, indeed. Part and parcel of military life.